Tell us about the private, sweet, considerate John.
Well, for me, anyway. I mean, he was always considerate. He knew that I had to have my breakfast, because in the morning, I like to. If I got hungry and I didn't eat all day, I would get very grouchy. And so he wanted to be sure that I have my breakfast. We'd go out to diners or whatever. And there was one time when I was ill, I wasn't feeling well. And he says, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want some Coca-Cola." My drink of choice back then was always a Coca-Cola. I said, "I just need something to make me feel better." And he went out to the store by himself. He had never done that. And he went out and bought some for me.
Did John ever mention his childhood to you?
We talked lightly about it. I mean, he talked about his mom, Julia, and we were talking about his playing and how Mimi was such a strict woman, and Julia was such a free spirit, taught him how to play banjo, taught him to Ain't That a Shame, the first song, and that's the first song he tried to teach me on a regular guitar. It was great. And he talked about his aunt having a lot of cats. He called them the cat woman. So it was just little things. We didn't go into it deeply. There were too many other things going on to be able to do that.
How was he with Julian? And do you think Julian was covered from doing his musical talent? Do you know what I mean?
I think, Julian, I knew when he was a child, from about 9 or 10. He exhibited something. He wanted to be in music, and you could see that. And John was just so thrilled to see him picking up, guitar, wanted to learn. He was picking up drums. He goes, "Oh, listen, Dad, look at this." And, he'd do all sorts of things. And his father was proud of him, So Julian has turned into a really good musician, and I'm really happy.
Do you see him?
I saw him last year. I don't see him often. I've seen him sporadically over the years. And the last time was last September when his mother had her book release party, and he came into London to show support for her. It was great. We all went out to dinner.
Did John ever consider himself a genius?
No, not really. He really wasn't. In a sense, not that he wasn't. He didn't consider himself really a genius. He may joke around. He knew he had talent, but it wasn't something that he would say, "Oh yeah, I'm a real genius here." But he knew he had talent to do certain things.
Did John ever say anything to you about Sergeant Pepper in particular?
No, not really. Not about Sergeant Pepper. The only good thing for me, I got a chance to wear that jacket that's on there. It was nice green. It was quite heavy. It's great.
You've seen John compose, and what would you say the process would be?
I've been asked that a lot. It's difficult because whatever strikes his fancy is how it really worked. So if a line came in that was in his head, he'd start with that. If it was a riff, then he would go, so whatever, he just sort of melt certain things together, and then it would become a song. It wasn't any one particular, it's not like he wrote lyrics first before music or music before lyrics. It was a combination.
Is it true that John was a cat person?
Oh yeah, he loved cats. We had 2 cats, Major and Minor, and it was great.
Were you around during the 1974 Dark Horse tour with George?
Mm-hmm. I was definitely there.
Can you tell me an experience with George and how you feel about him? Just a little bit about
I love George, and so did John. And we hadn't seen him. I know John hadn't seen him in a long time, and it was quite weird because everybody was also in town. Paul had just flown into town as well for an Apple meeting, and where they were all having these discussions with lawyers and everything. And we went over to see George, and it was great. They let's put it this way, they ironed whatever differences out because John wanted to see him, and he offered to help him out on his Dark Horse tour because it wasn't doing very well. So he says, I want to come and help you. And George says, that's really kind. He goes, maybe, you know, why don't you come and see the show and see what you think? And that's what was going to happen. But then when John refused to sign the agreement because he didn't feel he was ready to sign it because it wasn't in his favor on certain things, George got angry at him and says, well, I don't need your help. But then he called up and he says, all is forgiven, I understand, come down to the after party. And he told that to Julian to tell us. So it was great. I mean, the experience was, the love between the two it was amazing. You could see it.
Would you consider them like brothers?
Oh, there was no two ways about it. I mean, that's the description I would give. They were like brothers. The four guys, nobody else, not wives, not girlfriends, not anybody. They could say whatever they want because they grew up with each other. They were so intertwined, you know. If you say, I don't think any of us really, it was about them, not about the girlfriends or the wives.
You write in your book about some of John's violence. Where would you say that came from?
I think that the violence, you know, it's when that was written. Yeah, he did have a violent streak for that one moment. It was based out of his own insecurities, and it was also prompted by outside influences, you know, and kept going until finally, you know, it just popped. But it wasn't something that happened very often, as you know, it's made out to be. It wasn't that way. And when he realized, like, if he got a little out of hand the next day, when he found out it happened, he was just really apologetic. It's like, you know, with John, every move he makes, you know, was or you know, he made. I hate talking about him in the past sometimes. He was making news. So if he went into a shoe store, oh, John Lennon went into the shoe store, or John Lennon walked. So it was hard, and you know, it's the cameras in your face, people watching you. You can't do anything.
But do you think he was oppressed by Bianco in any way?
Oppressed? You know, there's a lot there. There's a lot of different things. They had their own ups and downs because they were both artists. So, you know.
And what are you? Are you on the artist side or the business side?
I was a bit of both, but I wasn't creative. I wasn't in that same realm to the point where I didn't want to fight for a position. I did more work, like I would do music publishing, which is something they didn't have to do. But I enjoyed it because I understood the songs. I liked doing the background work, the creative work with background-wise. And he appreciated it so much. I mean, he would tell everybody, oh, you know so much about music. I can't, you know, all these other songs and all the other acts and, you know, who's around and whatever. It was great. I mean, we complimented each other.
Did John ever talk about Brian Epstein to you?
No, we didn't.
No.
We really didn't talk about Brian. Although, I mean, we touched on it, but it never was something that we talked about.
Okay. Okay, sorry, just trying to skip around here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about the story about seeing the flying saucer with John?
It was interesting because when seeing a flying saucer, it was a Friday evening after a long, hard day's work in the recording studio, and John had just gotten up from a nap, and he said, "Oh, just go get the pizza. Order a pizza. We don't want to do anything." And it was so hot and muggy, and I said, "Okay." So John decides to get up in his birthday suit and walk out on our terrace, which was dark. You know, nobody really could see him, and all the windows were dark outside. And he wanted to go and have, you know, a ciggy before the pizza man. And I'm in the other room, trying to get dressed as well, so the pizza man would come and get it. And so, as I'm trying to pick up some clothes, I hear him going, "Hey, get out here." Yeah, okay, fine. I'm not thinking anything of it. And he starts screaming louder. And he says, "Now!" And I went, "Oh my God, something's happened." So I run out. Now there's two of us standing out there in our birthday suits, and I'm going, "What are you up?" And I stop mid-sentence, and I look up, and I see this thing that's over our heads. And it's this saucer-like shape. Maybe, John said it was about the size of a two-man Learjet, you know, whatever it may be. And it's the saucer with bright white lights around.